Joined now by Arise analyst Mahmoud Jega and Frank Tietie again. And well, let's start with you, Mahmoud. Even though the Senate president tried to throw, pass a shot at the younger generation, in this case, Senator Bayong, tell us your thinking of this going back that is happening in our polity. The parliamentarians are trying to go back to the old ways of parliamentary election, a system of government. Now it is with the old anthem.
Honestly, when I first read about it earlier today, I thought it was a joke because, this cannot be a priority at this time. Those of us who grew up with the old anthem, quite all right, we have some nostalgia about the anthem that we were singing in primary school and even in early secondary school. But I don't think it makes any material difference to the country. And it will also cause a generational disorientation, because even our own generation, when the anthem was changed, we had trouble. It took time. There were times when people appeared before the Senate for confirmation as ambassadors, and they were asked to recite the national anthem, as they recited the old one. Now, the present generation for nearly 50 years have been on this new anthem. If you now go back to the old one, which they never heard of, then for the next 10 to 20 years, you are going to have crisis. You bring people to Senate and ask them to recite the national anthem, and they again begin to arise all compatriots. I don't think it is, honestly, it's a waste of time, if you ask me.
Frank Tietie, do you agree that it's a waste of time, or is it just about nostalgia, or like the Yorubas would say, like sometimes you have to go back, to move forward. Is that what it is? Do we need to go back as a nation, go back to the parliamentary system, go back to the 1963 Constitution, go back to the old national anthem, and on and on?
In 1978, I was in primary one. My mother, Mrs. Cecilia Tietie, headmistress of Agbar Model Primary School. I recall now with great nostalgia that of Nigeria we hail thee. Now, though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. I recall those words even as a primary one pupil in Agbar Model Primary School. And let me tell you, that is what Nigeria needs most. Unity has been the biggest problem of this country. We fought a civil war over the issue of unity. We needed to constantly reenact the fact that we are different people, different cultures, different nationalities, yet we decided to come together. At independence, when we sang that national anthem, it was a country that was born, and that was born to the world, that with the people with a strong vision to become great. And you could see all of that, but the military came and truncated that. This will always remain a big shame in our history against the Nigerian military that truncated our civil democratic process. India has always had its problem as a democracy, but the military never took over power. Now look at the words of Arise, O compatriot, the military mentality, a command and control mentality. Arise, all you compatriots, do this, do that, do this, do this. That's the mentality. So with the highly respected Mahmoud Jega, very brilliant in his essays, nevertheless, I will not agree with him on this one, that this is not a waste of time. This is a call to national greatness. We have had it before. It was a national anthem, and again, it was a national anthem after in 1978. We heard, the last time I heard it was at University of Benin, where we want to challenge the authorities, especially the military authorities, for such oppressive acts, even in the days of General Abacha and the rest of that. We go back to that old national anthem. The Senate is waking up to reality, to realizing that Nigerian people have to have a new mentality that is based on the foundation of this country. We are different people. Those are words on marble. They will forever remain. That's the reason why they need to be reenacted in our minds. Though tribe and tongue may differ, but we are brothers, and in our brotherhood we will stand and build this country, not the destruction that the military led us into one civil war. It constantly tore us apart, entrenched corruption and look at the countries we started with in 1960, the Malaysians, the Singapore, and the rest of them, where they look at, they've gone very far, and here we are still on our knees. For goodness sake, Nigeria needs to go back to where it has missed it and then begin to start that journey of greatness again. And that national anthem is a cultural shift that will reenact that mentality in all of us. Please, the Senate did not waste time. That is a very, very important point.
Well, and Frank, I think sadly, if you look at it, this looks like an anticlimax. If you say that that was a good anthem, but again, we had the anthem and went into a civil war. Tribal civil war, whether you like it or not. Though tribes and tongue may differ, it came with a civil it came with a civil war. So now we're talking about our brotherhood and our compatriots now. Let's bring in Jega again, because we're talking about the timeliness. It would seem as if the parliamentarians, the representatives of the people, have not consulted the people. Mahmoud Jega, is this what the people want? Is this what you are in dire need of at the moment from your parliamentarian?
Actually, if you ask me, the military did more consultation in 1978 before they changed the national anthem than the National Assembly members are doing today, because we just woke up. I mean, as a newspaper editor, I never heard that there was any clamor to change the national anthem, only to get up, watch television, and I saw members debating that we should change. But in 1978, the Obasanjo military regime, actually there was a competition, there was a lot of consultation. The anthem didn't fall from the sky. They asked for submissions, and the committee finally arrived at one, and the Supreme Military Council. In any case, with the greatest respect to Barrister Tietie, a very good friend, all those things you said about Nigeria has to reorganize, it is very true. What is doubtful is whether it is the national anthem that will do it, or whether it was because we changed the national anthem that we have all the problems that we have today.
And that's a very good point that you raise, Madam Jega. Frank Tietie, is that really what we need? A change in national anthem, going back to the old one that was actually written not by Nigerians but by foreigners? We need to underscore that point. Or does Nigeria need a rallying point, a figure that we all can look up to, that can say, look, this is the direction that we need Nigeria to go, and we all fall behind that person? Isn't that what Nigeria needs now?
So why do you think a country will retain God Save the King or God Save the Queen for that long? Or the Star-Spangled Banner will be sung for that long? You see, you don't truncate a country's foundation unnecessarily. That's the point. So the military holds the blame for the troubles we've had in this country. It led us into a civil war, and then they concluded that confusion by changing the national anthem. So it's a proper thing that we are going back to where we were before. It is fundamental that we don't continue on the path of perdition. This country, don't play with the principles that is behind ideology. Ideology drives nations. They may be intangible, but they are the trust that drive the population to a particular direction. The national anthem is the call to unity, is a call to that ideology for progress and prosperity in this country. It is not the one that is forced, but the one that is natural. In 1960, the progression into the national anthem was natural. The British were leaving and we were taking ownership. But the military came and then they caused all that confusion, and only for them to come and now confuse the mentality of Nigerians and the history of Nigerians. So anything that will reenact, that will build the foundation of this country by making the young people of today to know what used to be in Nigeria before, the historical foundation of Nigeria, is something that we must support. I support the Senate wholeheartedly on this, and the respected Mahmoud Jega must realize that the Senate represents the people. So actually it is a reflection of what the people think, irrespective of the fact that there must be consultation. Do not also forget how the military does its own thing. There may be all the competitions, but it does whatever it wants to do. It cannot be challenged. So what the Senate is simply doing is simply go back to its foundation.
Frank. Quickly, Frank, isn't it amazing that the National Assembly is so quick to pass this and want to change this, because perhaps, according to you, it was bequeathed on us by the military. But the same constitution given to us by the military is taking almost forever. Why can't they have the same speed of light changing the Constitution the way they're making us change the anthem. Frank?
You underrate the kind of politics we play in Nigeria. You forgot that we've had several constitutional conferences in this country that were midwifed by the military. So what happened in 2014? So how come all the effort and all the resources that were expended during the 2014 constitutional conference did not become or materialize to become anything? So it's a matter of politics. Let me tell you, this country is progressing. It's a matter of time. We may not be able to change the constitution overnight, but when we start with small things like the national anthem that the military bastardized and discarded, when we start a restoration progress in that manner, then one day, someday, very soon, this constitution will be discarded and then we'll have a people constitution, not the one that was decreed into law by General Abdulsalami Abubakar, and then you say we the people of Nigeria. How can we live a lie as a country when we didn't? We have a constitutional assembly. We cannot do that.
Very quickly.
I expect that it will be changed one day.
All right, that's a very hopeful note. Madam Jega, let me ask you the same question. I mean, posed to Frank Tietie there. The speed with which this national anthem has gone through third reading, why are we not able to apply the same speed, the same sense of urgency, to the Constitution amendment? Or scrapping of the Constitution, for that matter, that some, have been recommending that we need a totally new Constitution designed by civilians, by Nigerians, that really reflects the wishes, the hopes and desires of Nigerians.
Because there is no guarantee. Anyway, changing the Constitution is obviously a much more difficult process than changing the national anthem. The Constitution has to, if you want to change it or even repeal and replace it, you can only do so by the provisions of the current Constitution, because it is a ground norm. You can't do any other thing. I've seen people say in referendum, if that one is not provided for as a means of constitutional amendment in the current Constitution, you cannot do that. In any case, I do not entirely agree with the argument about the military did this Constitution. The 1999 Constitution is nearly 90% the 1979 Constitution. And the 1979 Constitution was drafted by a 50-man Constitution drafting committee headed that time by Chief F.R.A. Williams, and then adopted after 1 year of thorough debate by an elected Constituent Assembly chaired by Mr. Justice Udo Udoma. Then the Supreme Military Council made 8 fairly small changes and then promulgated it into law. So I don't agree with the argument that it is the military that produced this constitution and you want a people's constitution. I don't see any other way. Even now, if we want to have another new constitution, you must probably have a constituent assembly, an elected one. Because the problem with the 2014 conference is that the delegates were not elected. When people are saying, hey, let's go back to it, the delegates were not elected. They were appointed by the presidency that time with representation from some special groups. That is not better than having an elected constituent assembly to debate and produce and promulgate a constitution. In my opinion.
It will be a good time for Nigerians to go back to the 2 anthems and make up their minds on it. The anthem's lyrics written by Lillian Jean Williams in 1959. Well, it does evoke a sense of nostalgia, national pride and unity for some, while others are asking, what's the big deal? Thank you so much, both of you gentlemen, for joining us on News 9.